Hey guys, it's Nicole, and today I am going to attempt to somewhat quickly share with you how I edit my photos into photo templates that I have purchased. I've been getting a lot of questions about photo collages in general, whether it be quick DIY ones that I make myself or ones that are purchased and kind of already designed and ready to go. So for today, I am going to be talking about the ones that I have purchased from Carrie Bradford's website, which if you go onto her website and you go up here to shop all, and then over here on the right, there's photo templates. The one that I am using today is down here, and it's this storyboard single, currently 99 cents. I think most of her templates right now are around, I'd say anywhere from $5 to $10. I typically wait for her to run a sale and then I'll kind of go through and grab a couple. But I have to say that this is probably the one that I have used the most. It's just the most convenient, and to me, if I'm doing a single page layout, the odds are I'm probably going to be using at least 6 photos. So when I go to where it basically lives on my external hard drive, when I double click on this, it's going to automatically open up in the software that I use. I have Photoshop Elements 2020. This particular one, when I go to open it, I get this message. I just go ahead and say convert mode. I don't understand what any of that is. I don't really care either. I, in the past, have used, I think it's Photoshop Elements 10. Like, they used to number them. Now it's like the year. So I bought Photoshop Elements and Premiere Elements as a bundle. To me, I would rather purchase the software instead of pay like a monthly subscription to access it. So if you have Photoshop Elements, then you will be able to follow along with me with this kind of a tutorial. I don't unfortunately know how to use any other editing software, and this isn't me telling you that you have to go out and buy an expensive program. Pretty much Photoshop Elements is like the hobby level, beginner level of Photoshop. So it is a smaller size software and smaller price point. So this, as you guys can see, I've got 6 photos I'm going to put in here. And I will typically start with like the largest square on here or the most like important photo that I'm going to work with. I also don't drop just the 6 photos that I want. I'm working with these Valentine's Day photos from 2020. I just open up the photos in my folder. I grabbed all of them, dropped them in here, and then I pick and choose from here. And then you guys can see I've got some other stuff down here that I'm working on. So for me, I'm going to start with the one that's actually labeled 5. And you can see over here, it's going to highlight this layer 5. So I think I am going to pick this photo down here. So all I'm going to do is left click, hold down on the left click, and I'm going to drag and drop it up here. And a lot of times it will put it in here enormous like this. So then I just grab a corner, I do like a rough resize, and you can just kind of grab and where it's going to go. And normally my Photoshop Elements runs a little quicker and a little smoother than this, but because I'm recording my screen, I think it's slowing things down. So once I have it kind of here where I like it, I might make it a little bit bigger so you don't see all the school stuff sitting on our table. To get rid of this, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to say green check mark, which basically says yes to the resizing that you've done. Now, to get this photo to sort of only live within the parameters of this number 5, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to hold down the Alt button on my keyboard with my mouse kind of hanging out between the photo and the layer. And when I do that, it changes to this little arrow that points down with a little box. I'm going to push that, and basically my understanding is this creates a clipping mask. In the older versions of Photoshop Elements, you would do, I think it was like Control G, which was like a keyboard shortcut to do that. I actually had to Google how to do that on the newer one. So when I upgraded, 6-7 months ago, I kind of had to figure out where some of the new things lived in a much newer version of the software. Okay, so you can see the photo is actually still here. It's just being hidden by these other layers and then this like border. So I'm going to go back down here to Photo Bin, and I'm just going to go along and I'm going to fill the rest of these in. The only other thing that I really pay attention to is things like 4 and 6 being a portrait, 1, 2, and 3 are landscape. And then when I'm looking at my photos, I'm making sure that like I'm probably going to use this photo, and I would probably use like this one or maybe this one because they are looking in specific directions. So I'm going to scroll back down here, go find my collage again, scroll back up. So I think for number 4, I'm going to grab maybe this one of my daughter. Actually, I think I'm going to try this one. I kind of like this one better just because she's looking at me and clearly very happy about her little books. So again, I'm just kind of resizing, dragging it where I want it to be, and I'm just looking at this white frame to see what's getting cut off, what's not getting cut off, and then I'm making sure, like if I tried to bring this up, you can see that the layer for the photo collage is showing, so I just make sure that, you know, my photo is going all the way down to the bottom. So I think I like that. So I'm going to approve basically the resizing and the movement. And again, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to find my photo and the layer that I want to, you know, crop it into. I'm going to hold down the Alt button until it shows this arrow, and I'm going to left click, and then it's going to basically just crop that for me. Then over here, again, I think I'm going to grab maybe this one. And again, normally it doesn't take this much time for my software to kind of talk to each other, so I'm thinking that because I'm recording everything, it's having to think a little harder. And this one, I don't actually think I'm going to resize it. I think the size that it dropped in is just fine. So I'm going to come over here, click that, and it's good to go. And it doesn't bother me. This would probably bother some people. It doesn't bother me that she's on the left, he's on the right, her individual's on the left, his individual's on the right. That's totally fine for me. I know some people would want to kind of switch that up. If I were to reverse these, he would kind of be looking off and she might be kind of looking off. I'm going to wait and see how it looks after I put these 3 in, and maybe I'll swap it and see. So next I'm going to come up here and so basically those, you know, were the 3 important ones that I wanted to include. I think I'm going to grab this one of her and put it in the middle. And anybody that has been asking about this, I think I originally learned how to do this from Carrie Bradford's YouTube channel. She doesn't have very many videos, but I was able to find a video that she had posted specifically on how to use the templates that she specifically designed. So that was kind of how I learned to use it. And then when I upgraded my software, I had to go and figure out where some of the features had been updated to. So again, every time I'm doing one, I'm going back to my photo bin. This one, I think I'm going to do the detail shot of kind of what was in their bag. and I'm going to drag and drop it. And this is just kind of one of those things where the more you do it, the better you get at it. It kind of becomes muscle memory. And for some reason, this one is already showing up as if it was a clipping mask, but I'm still going to go over here and hook them up together. Back to my photo bin, I want to make sure that I'm clicking the layer that I want to drop stuff into, and maybe I'll try this one. This one, I'm technically dropping a portrait-oriented photo into a landscape-oriented spot, but I know from looking at these photos when I dropped them in that the portrait one is like a sharper photo. Okay, sometimes this happens because I have all these photos in here. It dropped in here and it kind of looks like, okay, where did it go? It's actually sitting right here. And if it ever drops in and you can't find it, because sometimes if you go to try to grab this, it's going to move this photo instead of the one that you just dropped in here. All you need to do is come over onto your layer list over here, find the photo, click it, and then you can use the arrow keys on your keyboard to move it around. This one I can see is just sort of sitting over here, so I'm just going to drag it. And I'm going to see, no, it's not going to work. So sometimes I can drop a portrait into a landscape depending on how much is going to get cropped out, but I do want to see a little bit of all of his things, and that leaves it open here. So to get rid of it, I'm just going to say no to the resizing. It's highlighted right now. I'm going to hit backspace on my keyboard. I'm going to say yes to deleting the layer. I'm going to go back to my photo bin. I'm going to grab the landscape oriented one and drop that one in instead. And hopefully this is kind of making sense to you guys. Again, in order to follow along, you would need to have Photoshop Elements or know another software program enough to be able to like mimic what I'm doing in that software. Okay, so I'm going to go over here and do that. And then I kind of, in this instance, am a little bit bothered about it being, you know, her, her, him. So I think I am going to switch these two on the ends. So, I think if you hold down the Alt key and you click it again, yes, it uncrops the mask, I guess. I'm going to come over here, do the same thing to this one. So basically I'm kind of like ungrouping those. And then I'm going to take his picture, which is currently sitting above layer number 6, which is what this square is called. And I'm going to take his photo and I'm going to drag it and I'm going to put it over layer 4. And then I'm going to take her and drag her up and put her over layer 6. So this is just kind of sees things, I guess. Okay, so I'm going to bring her over here, hopefully. I gotta wait for my computer to catch up. And you can use your arrow keys if you just kind of need to bump something a tiny bit. I like where she's at, so I'm going to go ahead and kind of group her to that layer. He's still hanging out over here, so I'm going to drag him over here. And then this is what I'm saying. So because this photo lives like this list of layers over here, his photo is sitting above layer 6, you won't see it, or I'm sorry, layer 4. You won't see it until you actually get it over on top of layer 4. So then I'm going to come over here, same thing, and do that. Now, you can totally go File, Print, and you can print it from this window. And I'm going to wait for my print window to catch up to what I'm talking about. I've done it both ways. I've printed it from this like template file, and you can see here it's going to automatically figure out that it needs to go onto a letter page and that kind of a thing. Okay, I got interrupted, so now I'm not real sure where I was at, but you can totally print it from here. You just kind of like everybody's computer and everybody's printer is a little bit different, so you do kind of need to know how your printer prints, different things that you may need to change in your settings. My preferred method for printing these is I will go over here to this little drop down right here, and I will do flatten image. So now the computer is, or not the computer, but Photoshop is reading this whole thing as just one image. So one image worth of information instead of all those layers. I come over here, I go File, New, Blank File. I want a 8.5 by 11. I hit OK. It's going to come in portrait mode. I'm going to come up here to Image, rotate 90 degrees left or right. It doesn't matter to me. I'm going to come back down here to my photo bin, and I'm going to grab my photo collage, and I'm going to drag and drop it onto this. I like to do it this way because I like to physically see what it's going to look like to make sure that nothing got messed up. And then I will shrink it just a tiny bit. I'm going to grab a corner and I'm going to shrink it just a tiny bit, because sometimes when I go to print it, I don't get like an even border on the long ends of the paper. And then I'm just going to take my arrow keys and kind of nudge it a little bit so that it's a little bit more centered, because I want to have a white border all the way around it. This one I'm going to be able to cut with my trimmer, so I want to make sure that this one prints. So then I'm going to go File, Print, and then I have a little photo printer. I have this Epson PictureMate, so I want to make sure that I'm printing to my big one. And here you can see the default, because I haven't printed since I opened Photoshop, it's going to automatically go to plain paper, which is just like copy paper. I am going to hit change settings. I'm going to change this. I currently am printing with, it says Photo Paper Pro Luster. So that is literally what shows up on the drop down box. This I don't mess with. I don't mess with this. I do go into advanced settings. I want to make sure that I'm on photo printing. So I'm going to change that. I want borderless printing. I want it to print what I have on there. This, I'm going to, again, change this to Photo Paper Pro Luster. This is set for high. I need to make sure that this is set for just letter size paper. This, it will automatically figure out where it's coming from. I'm going to say OK, OK. And then now you can see that white edge is here, whereas before the software was automatically wanting to resize that image to hit the edges. I don't want that. And then from here, I'm just going to go ahead and hit print. So I'm hoping that this helped you guys out, the ones that were specifically asking for this. The next time that I find myself needing to do like a homemade photo template, I'll do a video like this and kind of share that. That takes a little bit longer because it's not a pre-formatted template that I'm, dragging and dropping photos into. So that one might be a little bit more in depth, but that one I'm going to be able to cover things like cropping to a specific size. If you have a set size or parameter that you want your total size photo collage to be, that kind of a thing. So I'm going to end this video here, and hopefully this kind of helps you guys out, especially if you're using pre-made photo templates and Photoshop or Photoshop Elements. So if you have any other questions on this specific type of thing that you didn't see or I didn't cover in the video, leave me a comment below and I'll try to kind of walk you through it in the comments if possible. So with that, I'm going to say bye and I'll catch you guys later.